Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Tricia Sawyer. Oh, I'll start over. Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Tricia Sawyer and Janine Rath-Thompson, the makeup and hair team behind Jason Reitman's new film Saturday Night, which is just so great. And I guess I watched the film. I was like, wow, this is such an undertaking. I guess so. For you guys as the hair and makeup team, what was when you see the cast coming together and there's 25, 26 incredible actors who are like main characters in this movie have to look like the real people they're playing. I guess where do you start in terms of like how do you figure out how to make these actors look like, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase down the line? Like where do you start, I guess, in a project like this?
What do you think, Trish?
Well, we got together and we did a lot of research and we basically compiled tons of photos and then of the real actors and the actors that they were portraying and just started from there and started dissecting them and do they need sideburns, do they need wigs, do they need
Yeah,
what do we have to do to achieve this look, and just I
yeah,
think started with the practical aspect of it.
yeah. Because every actor looked, we had different challenges with every one of them. So we had to take each one piece by piece and see who needs what and who's brought this to the table and what can we use and what do we have to change. And you have to start at ground zero.
And then is it like for you guys together, is it you're maybe, I mean, is the goal to make them look like a spitting image of the person they're playing, or is it to like find the enough essence of the real person in the actor and like bring that forward so that combined with the
Yeah.
performance, it'll kind of read to the audience like you're, kind of suspend disbelief enough to feel like you're watching this real person.
Well, you have to
Yes to
remember
both.
all of these characters. Yeah, exactly. Yes to both. All of these characters in your mind, if you've been watching SNL for this many years, you have so many different versions of them in your head. So when somebody says John Belushi or Gilda Radner or Dan Aykroyd, a thousand different pictures are going to come up. So we had to really get back to what did they look like then when we actually were starting the show? What what do we want to be an iconic look so that people recognize them immediately? And what can we pull off with the actor and what they can bring? So you had to just kind of jumble all those things together and decide on here's where we're going to land. So they were all different. Some looked just like them, some didn't. Some, it just depended on each what every actor brought to the table.
Yeah, like Corey Michael Smith looked so much like,
Mm-hmm.
Chevy Chase. So he was we put sideburns on him and, I think you changed his hair and he was good to go.
Gave him a terrible haircut that he was not happy about, and then he looked great.
He
It was
does.
perfect.
Yeah, he really, and but he looks great, and then he obviously just totally, man, he has the Chevy like mannerisms and the pacing
Yeah.
of his
So
voice down.
good,
It's like really great. But yeah,
so
the
good.
hair, he just looks like Chevy Chase. It's kind of crazy. I wanted to ask you about,
Yeah,
you mentioned like John Belushi, obviously like one of the most iconic, I think, recognizable figures around SNL in history. You have Matt Wood
mm-hmm.
playing him. Matt Wood does kind of looks like John Belushi. I was looking at photos, and I'm like, he doesn't really, but in the movie, he looks so different than I think he does in real life. And you have him obviously in that beard to start that gets shaved off later. I guess like
Mm-hmm.
what went into like turning Matt into John Belushi, and then how did you kind of approach the beard of it all and making that look as good as it does, knowing that he probably is gonna. I'm sure that was. I'm assuming that was a prosthetic beard, right, on him. So like,
Yes, it was. It was it was added on. It's
yes,
that kind of a funny story about the beard because originally he had grown out a fabulous beard for us that we were going to then shave practically, and then we realized, oh no, we're shooting New York first, so he had to be clean shaven for the ice rink. So then we had to
it wasn't
backpedal.
that we realized they changed it.
They changed it. Yeah, they changed it. I was being nice. They changed the
Yeah.
schedule and we had to make a beard. And then so we made a beautiful beard for him, but then it was actually too perfect. So we wanted to give him that kind of, John Belushi had a really thin, um, great
Yeah, it was
kind of
like
almost
patchy.
patchy, yeah,
Yeah.
growing out. So we ended up hand laying it every
hmm.
day until, but those sideburns were his, but we hand laid the beard on
It,
him.
is it like a lot of? I mean, I guess like I was thinking this too because it looks like watching the movie when I first started. I was like, oh, obviously this guy grew out a beard. I was like believing it, and then you shaved it off, and I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't a real beard. It must have been fake. I guess so. Is there like knowing that there's going to be so much attention paid to his facial hair, does that like up the pressure on your end to like make sure it looks like real enough to like, to sustain or withstand like, people watching the movie basically?
Oh yeah, but I think there was not only that pressure with John Belushi there, I think there was that pressure with all of the characters. I
I was
mean,
just gonna say that's all the time.
I mean,
You
George
never want anybody to see it.
Jim Henson, like all of those, like, Gilda Radner, all of those iconic characters, we all had that pressure on all of them.
Janine, you
But yeah,
mentioned like kind of like trying to point like pick out maybe a certain aspect of the person they're playing that like is very recognizable. I guess like you mentioned like Gilda obviously has that great hair that I think everybody again would know.
Yeah.
Like how did you kind of work with like Ella's actual hair versus like what were you doing to make it work basically to make her look like Gilda Radner? Because in real life, again, she doesn't necessarily look like Gilda Radner, but you watch the movie, I think you totally
Right.
buy that she is Gilda Radner.
Well, there was a lot of pressure on that Gilda Radner wig because Ella's just gorgeous. And Gilda Radner was beautiful as well, but not in a classic way like Ella is. And so I think there was a lot of pressure that that hair is what was going to really sell that she was Gilda Radner. So making the getting the right texture was the hardest part. I got this beautiful wig from Natasha Ladek that was this unbelievable curls that I had to brush out and make a little bit frizzy and thin it out a little bit and make it not nearly as pretty and just make it more of a real girl. And the moment we put it on her, it just kind of came together. Tricia did this beautiful thing with her eyebrows. I think the eyebrows and the wig is what made Ella work because she's just so stunning to look at. And Gilda wasn't that girl. She was the kind of girl who came from behind and you fell in love with later, And I think between the wig and the eyebrows is what made that work for Ella.
Tricia, can you talk about the eyebrows too? I think that's that's definitely right, thinking of the way it looks in the movie. So yeah.
They made
yeah,
such a difference.
It's so true. I mean, Ella photographs. I mean, the camera loves her. So it was hard to take this person and create her into this iconic thing. But really, for me, when I looked at Gilda Radner, she had these great, very round, very thin eyebrows, and Ella has beautiful, thick, bushy, fabulous eyebrows. So I didn't want to pluck her eyebrows because I didn't want to hurt the follicle, and because could potentially they won't grow out the same, and blah blah blah. So we ended up. I talked her into allowing me to shave them, and she was so game and so great about it. And so we shaved them and we redrew them in, and it worked out great.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I mean, like obviously you guys are working so closely together. You Tricia, you and Janine here. I mean, like how much, like how fun was this as a collaboration for you guys to be like kind of like maybe like yes anding each other basically in terms of like, oh well, what if we did this and then I could do this or that kind of thing.
Well,
like especially a project like this.
What you don't know is that Tricia and I have been best friends since we were 20. So this was shorthand for us. We haven't actually worked together on a show. It's shockingly we've crossed paths, but we haven't done a show together in forever. So
yeah, probably
we walked in.
We haven't worked together.
No, it's only been 5, Tricia. We're very young. So we literally there was no crossover honeymoon period. We just went to work and started. We were talking about it before we were even realizing we were talking about it. We were just making plans already. It just came naturally to just discuss each character. We'd sit at night and have a conversation and glass of wine and talk about what are we doing to who and what do you think and da da da.
Yeah.
It was super easy for our collaboration. We really came together as a team to come to Jason or to come to Eric or to come to the cast. It was really easy for us to do that and bring our teams together. That was never a problem.
Yeah.
For you guys, I mean, you mentioned Jason there, obviously. I've gotten to speak to a few people who have worked on the film here, and they were all like, praising the way he kind of like, I guess led, like he seemed like it was like a very enthusiastic like production, right? Or like he just like obviously like empowered you guys to like really kind of take the leads in your departments. And I guess like what was it like working with him and like kind of especially on this project, which I know he like was really passionate about. Obviously, like it's something that he's wanted to make. I think he's had said since like Juno he wanted to almost maybe get into this. So that's obviously a long time in his career. So what was it like for you guys to like kind of step into this project with him and like collaborate with him, I guess.
What
I
do
mean,
you think,
Jason's
Greg?
extremely collaborative, and he
Hmm.
knows exactly. He's very decisive, and that made our job really easy. That and the fact that we would take him pictures. He would choose, decisively which one he liked better, and then he would let us go. And
Yeah,
he just,
we would book 15-minute interviews with him, like a little meeting with him, every couple of days, and we'd run in with piles of photos and go 1, 2, 3, or 4, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 1, 2, and he'd go that one, that one, that one, that one, and we'd be like, okay, great, bye, and we'd run back out because there were so many cast members that was the only way we could get through was just quick, short, fast. What do you think
yeah,
about this one? And he was so sure. I don't remember. There was practically very few times that he didn't immediately know the answer.
yeah.
There was a couple times where he was like, I'm not sure. What do you guys think? And we talked about it. Otherwise, he was like, nope, you're right. That one, that one, that one. It was great. He knew
Yeah,
what
if
he
he
wanted.
like that one that you're talking about, like when he would be like, I don't know, what do you guys think? And he would totally trust us in our opinion when we would,
Hmm.
give him
Hmm.
an argument for our cause kind of thing.
Yeah, we
And
changed
that,
his mind a couple of times. There was a couple of times where we were like, no, we don't think so. And this is why. And he'd listen and he'd go, okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah,
do it.
he's
You know,
extremely easy and collaborative and wonderful to
yeah.
work with.
That's awesome. You mentioned, I think we were talking before about like Nicholas Braun. I think with Jim Henson has obviously the very recognizable beard, and then he's also playing Andy Kaufman. Jason has talked about. I think that Andy Kaufman maybe was at one point going to be Benny Safdie, but he had to
Hmm.
go work on his own film. So then Nicholas steps in to play Andy Kaufman, and I'm like, man, I can't like Nicholas Braun looks so much like Andy Kaufman. I guess to me watching the movie, and I was like, how did like I
Right.
guess Benny Safdie would too, but I guess like how did you kind of like work with Nick, like both of those looks? Obviously, Jim Henson, such an iconic like look, and then also Andy Kaufman. I just think that that's great. And then having them both be Nick is really funny. So I guess how'd you kind of like work on that and work on the Nick as Andy, I guess, aspect of
He
it?
was so fun. He was calling us before we were legally allowed to speak to him because his deals hadn't been signed, going, what do you guys think? He's so game and so interested and so just was game for anything and every little detail. He sees every tiny little detail, which for us is fun because we're so detail oriented, but most people find it, they're like, okay, that doesn't really matter. We're like, no, it really matters. Nick was right on the same page that really matters. So he let us do what we needed to do. It was great.
Yeah, that was those two characters were a lot of fun. A
Did you
lot of fun.
what did you have to do to make him look like Andy Kaufman? And like what was the brief there, I guess, on like how do you turn him into Andy Kaufman?
Well, Andy had very distinct, like a set of three moles. So we had little prosthetic moles to his face. We had a little unibrow that I had made in between his eyebrows. Things like that. It was great. And the Jim Henson was a more elaborate for me, you know.
With the beard and stuff, obviously.
Yeah, we aged him. We did, old age stipple around his eyes and the full beard, and that was made by the wonderful Sasha Camacho. And yeah, it was great. That was a lot of fun.
How
Andy,
about
for me,
oh, yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
having to take his hair darker. I I would sit there every morning with this little tiny little curling iron and make these horrible, horrible curls in his hair all over his head. So it just looked ridiculous. And then we'd flatten it out as if that's how his hair was, because that's what Andy Kaufman's hair was. And he would brush it out with a comb and slick it down with oil. So we'd make all those horrible curls and then flatten it out and try to contain it as if he were trying to fix this terrible hair. So we kind of created the problem and then fixed the problem at the process, and made it look really greasy and sad because Andy's hair always looks so sad.
It looks,
But Nick just loved it.
yeah, it's really fun. He's so great. It's both of these characters. I guess the other part I wanted to ask you, I mean, like you have Gabriel Lael as Lorne Michaels. I mean, like again, another person where I was like, oh, when I got cast, I'm like, man, I love Gabriel Lael. I don't know. And then I'm watching the movie, I'm like, man, he looks just like, it feels like he's like Lorne, at least from photos I've seen of like Lorne Michaels at that time. But the other thing is we're with him so much of the movie, and obviously it's so high pressure and in real time. And he's getting, I mean, beyond like the blood exploding on him and stuff. It's just like he's getting more and more frazzled, obviously, as the night is going. So I guess like in terms of the hair and makeup, how did you calibrate like making that arc like read on screen? Obviously, like how much work is that to make it look like this day has gone on for a long time, and he is being affected by the stress of this.
We to do that with all the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 90 minutes, and that was one of the things Jason was really adamant about: is how do I see the complete destruction of these people? They're coming apart. They're terrified. How are we going to show that? So it took a lot to find the breaks in the script as to which stage are we at? Because it was so subtle. It's an hour and a half. So it was a lot. Tricia did more, I think, with Gabe than we did with hair.
Yeah, Gabe had, his under eye circles got more throughout the whole arc, and he got more redness around the eyes and things like that. So
are you keeping how do you keep track of this? I guess in terms of your work for continuity's sake, right? Or just in anything? Are you do you have is it on an iPad? Or are you keeping a board? How do you keep track of exactly the calibration?
Photos, shared photo albums.
Yeah, a lot of photos. Yeah, we take a lot of photos on set. We take a lot of continuity pictures. We decide in the script when he's going to start breaking down, and kind of use scene numbers to determine when those breakdowns happen, and take it from there, because we shoot out of order, and chaos.
This whole thing sounds like chaos, and like I said, there's I think there's 25 actors maybe, or 26 who have individual title cards. There's so many characters. It's a movie, I guess. So at the risk of being what was the biggest challenge? I mean, what was for this? Can you pinpoint something, or was the whole project just I can't imagine you worked on something like this, at least this the way it moves and all these different aspects of it. So I guess what was the biggest challenge then, and had you guys kind of handle it? Yeah,
every day.
Okay.
Getting them out every day.
I don't think most people would realize that we got the entire cast ready every single day, every morning to shoot. So we had a team of 6. We each had at least 6 characters to do.
Just the principals. That doesn't even count for the all of the crew and all of the people that were on all of the stages, all the background people.
Yeah.
And we had to do it every day, because Jason wanted to add people constantly crossing and doing things just to make it look frenetic, and it just was a lot. But we got it down to a machine. It was.
Yeah, we never held up camera.
Nope, not once, not one time.
It's amazing. It's just an amazing. I think when you watch the movie, it doesn't feel effortless, because you could tell obviously how much work has been put into this movie and to keep this pace going and stuff. But at the same time, I don't think people would realize how much work goes into making it look even at what it is, right? I mean, it's oh my God, I cannot believe I couldn't imagine being in your shoes. There's so many people in the cast, and they're always on screen, it feels like, and the way it's shot, obviously everybody's moving in and out of scenes. The last person I hate, again, before we wrap up, I just have one more I loved. Nicholas Podney, right, is Billy Crystal. Oh my God, yeah. He looks so sounds just like him, but he looks just like him. I was how did they do this? And I looked him up. I'm he was in the Harry Potter play, obviously. I'm then not in Hello Tomorrow. I'm he doesn't really look like Billy Crystal again. So I feel that is a testament to your work together to make him look like Billy Crystal. I guess how did
what
you
an amazing human being. That man is just, he's an absolute joy to work with, and so talented. He just kind of strolled in. He's yeah, I didn't really know much about Billy Crystal. I just watched him a little bit, and then he boom on stage. We were going, I'm sorry, who are you? He was phenomenal. With me it was a wig. He doesn't look his hair is nothing like Billy's, so we made a Billy Crystal wig. But I think in that particular case, Tricia, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think he's the one who brought the Billy Crystal. I mean, he would transform into him, just the way he moved his body and everything. He was amazing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to take credit for that one. I would love to, but I think Nick gets the credit for that one.
Okay, it's great. I mean, you can take credit for a lot of these other. I just think you guys did such a great job on this film. Saturday night, you could see it in theaters now. Janine Rath-Thompson and Tricia Sawyer are the hair and makeup leads for this great film. Thank you both for chatting about this. It was really fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.